welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by Killjoy Jake. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing so good. For those of you that don't know, Jake is a horror YouTuber making update videos on the latest upcoming scary movies. On his channel, you will see updates on some of the biggest horror releases like Scream, Halloween Ends, as well as some of the familiar features such as X or VHS 94. You can subscribe to his channel as well as follow him on social media right down here in the description. So make sure you're checking that out. I wouldn't have him on here if his content was junk, I promise. Not only is he a cool dude, but he puts out great content. And you can get all the latest horror updates and geek out to all the bloody murder as well, just by subscribing and following on social media down here. So first off, how long have you been doing YouTube, and what kind of got you pushed in the direction of doing that?
Well, I've been doing specifically like horror videos for only like a little over 2 years now. I've been on YouTube just doing a whole bunch of weird stuff since like 2014. And I always had this passion for horror movies, and I just never found a way to incorporate that into YouTube. And then I just started this channel and started doing update videos. And yeah, here I am.
So by the time this airs, the movie's already been premiered. But what were your opinions on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre trailer? Did you watch that yet?
Yes. I had a massive freak out because I was digging it so much. I really enjoyed the trailer. I have like meh expectations right now, but that trailer was pretty impressive. So I hope it's good. I really hope it's good.
Yeah, I can honestly say it's one of my least favorite horror franchises. Love part one, like part two, and I'm actually a really big fan of the newest Leatherface one. I know a lot of people shit on that movie, but I really liked it. Just the thing that really bothered me was the fact that Bud wasn't Leatherface. Like, I really was salty about that. I know they were trying to do like a cool twist or whatever, but you had sometimes the most obvious choice is the right choice. And I felt like having Bud be Leatherface would have been a great choice in that situation. So do you have any videos coming up here in the near future that you could tell us about that you're going to be recording, or?
Yeah. I'm doing updates for like basically any really big horror movie that comes out. I'm also working on a really big Scream fan film. So I'm actually doing a whole 90-minute fan film based off of Scream movies. And it's the whole twist of it is that it's from the perspective of the killers this time around.
Legit, man.
Yeah.
And what's the title of that?
It's going to be called Red Right Hand.
What a perfect name.
Yeah.
What a perfect name for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. So I got to be completely transparent with everybody, because one thing that I don't do is bullshit. One thing I don't do is try to make myself look more intelligent than I am. I try to be extremely genuine, both on and off camera. And I was able to talk to Jake before this, and I'm going to, again, in the interest of fairness, I've never seen the movie we're about to talk about, guys. So I'm not going to bullshit my way through this and look like an idiot if I say wrong facts. So he's going to be carrying a lot of this conversation once I ask the questions. But before we get there, we got to find out what the hell we're talking about right now. So we got to go back to the past, my friend, and talk about your first horror movie. And the first horror movie that you watched was?
Eight-Legged Freaks. Oh, whoops.
I do know David Arquette was in it.
Yes.
So
there's that.
Do you remember how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I was, I believe I was 8 years old, and I was terrified out of my mind because I was way too young to be watching horror movies, but it was great. It was one of my first horror movie my dad had shown me. So it's got a real special place in my heart because of that. And it was like the first time I saw David Arquette on screen, and it was awesome. It's very funny. It's very silly. It's like Ivan Reitman-esque. It's very similar to his works, and it's just a fun time. It's a really fun horror movie.
Well, I can't say, again, in the interest of transparency, by the time you guys have watched this, I have seen the movie. It's on its way to me right now. So I am very excited to watch this. So from what I've gathered, this is a movie about big ass spiders, and they're not very friendly. So I can only imagine, growing up, arachnophobia got me. So I can only imagine what this did to you as a child. So which scene was it, would you say, that affected you the most from Eight-Legged Freaks?
Oh man, I mean, the first time you really see the big spiders is when all these like dirt bikers, they're all driving through like this desert, and like I believe the film takes place in like Arizona, and they're just jumping on these bikers, and that terrified me. That was the first moment where I was like, oh man, no way. And big like spiders, bees, bugs, when I was a kid, I was horrified. Like, just because of this very silly movie, it affected me that much. And seeing those bikers just get trampled over by jumping spiders, that really got me. That was a really scary creature feature moment. I loved it. Now I love it. Not so much as a kid.
So awesome. I like, growing up, like I said, arachnophobia, Earth versus the Spider. These are movies that, like, growing up really affected me. because I think growing up, I think we all kind of have that fear of spiders. The first time you see a tarantula, whether it was arachnophobia, eight-legged freaks, or Kevin McAllister putting it on Marv's face, the first time you see a spider, I think it's always really freaky, especially those tarantula-like spiders. So we know which scene affected you the most, but what would you say from Eight-Legged Freaks your favorite scene is?
Oh man, I mean, anything with David Arquette is wonderful. He's kind of like the lead in this movie, and he's doing his thing, man. When David Arquette is on screen doing his silly kind of badass thing, I'm all about it, man. I love him. Anything he's in, I'll check out for sure. He's definitely one of the stronger points of this movie. I also love the kid character in this movie too. He does a really good job. It's one of the only movies that I've ever seen that's a horror movie where the people actually kind of believe the kid character, which is a whole meta joke throughout this movie. David Arquette's character believes the kid. He's like, oh, giant spiders are running around. All right, let's go figure it out. And there's a whole big meta joke about it. I really appreciate that because, man, I get annoyed sometimes when it's like the kid is saying something that's like, oh yeah, this is obviously happening because of all this weird stuff that's been going on in town, and someone actually listens to the kid for once in this movie. So that's a big plus for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, God, and I don't know who the child actor is in this movie, but I'm very excited to see. So this movie essentially, is it like just like a human versus spider type story? Is that what it is? Like a gang of spiders? Like, is that essentially what the plot? Again, I'm sorry, guys, I haven't seen it. I don't want to, try to bullshit my way through this. Like, is that essentially what it is? Like giant spiders have overtaken, they're trying to get rid of them type thing?
Yeah, so like radioactive waste falls off a truck, falls into this lake next to a massive spider farm. So convenience. It's very like 50s giant monster movie-esque. Like it's very similar to that, but like if that movie was made in like the 2000s.
Right.
So we see like all these spiders, they get really big, and it's different kinds of spiders too. Like there's jumping spiders, there's like there's a massive queen spider at one point, and they all attack like these people in this small town who like a lot of like the third act mostly takes place in like this mall, and like that's where a lot of the spiders are coming to attack people, and it gets really crazy. We go into this cave system, or I'm not cave system, but like an underground mine shaft too is where a lot of the third act takes place too. It's crazy. There's a lot of cool settings. There's a lot of zany characters. There's a radio host guy that's like talking about conspiracy theories, and he thinks that all the spiders are aliens. It's very silly. Like Ivan Reitman, Ghostbusters,
right.
Like similar to that kind of style, essentially.
I'm very excited to watch it. Now, is this movie more CGI driven, or is there a lot more practical effects in this film?
It's CGI driven, and I know when you hear that from thousands movies, you're like, ugh, like God, CGI in the thousands did not look great, but it's not bad. It like, especially when you compare it to some of the other movies that came out around this time that like relied heavily on CGI. I'll give it that. It's not the worst I've seen, but it's not great either. It is mostly digital effects, but there is some practical stuff. There's like they actually have like a leg at one point that's like practical. So it's kind of a mix, but reliance more on CGI and digital effects.
That's awesome, man. And either way, I'm going to check it out because just from what you're describing to me, I love the fun. This to me sounds like, Tremors with, spiders is kind of the vibe I'm getting, which I'm totally down with because I've always been a huge Tremors fan. So again, haven't seen it, so I can't chime in on this part, but we obviously love kills in our horror movies. It's something we always gravitate to. We love it. What would you say your favorite kill is in the movie?
There's actually one really upsetting kill. Like they're all pretty tame and pretty silly, like a cat gets eaten or something, which like I'm sure that'll upset more people than the human deaths in this movie for sure. Trust me, I've been in a room with a lot of people like that, and it's always funny. It's always funny to see people get more upset about cat deaths over human deaths. But there's one death in particular where there's a person completely wrapped up in like cobwebs and like they can't move, and like this spider just slowly walks over to them. This is like third act, I'm gonna say, when this happens, and just like sticks something into them, and like like spiders eat people by like like putting like poison and acid into them and like sucking up all the goo. It's very similar to that. They just poke right through them and just kind of kill them, and they can't do anything because they're trapped and they're stuck. It's a very claustrophobic and like you can't do anything about it kind of kill. So it's actually kind of scary for this movie being so campy and silly.
That sounds very fear-inducing, man. Just the thought of being stuck and not being able to defend yourself. So now this movie isn't too old, but this is a question I do often ask. This was your first horror movie, so it does have a special place in your heart, obviously. But would you like to see Eight-Legged Freaks remade today?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they could remake this movie, sure. It's not like yes, it's my first horror movie, so it's like the nostalgia value of it is why I love it so much. Is it a great movie? It's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 for me. You know, it's like it's not bad. It's good. It's a good movie. If they could remake this movie today, sure, but like I don't see really any room for improvement or to change anything because like if you don't make it like if they make a dark and sinister version of Eight-Legged Freaks, I'm gonna be like,
Right.
what? You know what I mean? I'd if they were to remake it, they'd kind of have to do the exact same thing with the campiness, the tone. If you change it up, it just might be kind of odd, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I respect that opinion, and anything dark and sinister with spiders, I'm probably not in anyway. That just is so fun to me. Like,
right. Yeah.
But we talked about your first horror movie being Eight-Legged Freaks and how much that movie means to you. And now we're going to transition from one David Arquette film to another. I got to go scream on you here for a second, man. What's your favorite scary movie, Jake? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many good ones, right? The one that really sparked my like interest again into them back in like 2018 was this movie called Hereditary. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but like I've just never had a film affect me emotionally more than this movie. Hereditary made me just upset. I left the theaters that night and I just went to bed. I was like, I can't even do anything else with my day. This is horrible. It is a god awful movie, and that's why I love it.
It's one of the darkest films I've ever seen. And I'm with you. You know, my wife and I, we were there opening night, and spoiler free, obviously. I'm not going to spoil it, but the scene happened, and we hadn't been spoiled either, thank God. And I've never had a theater. Maybe when John Kramer stood up at the end of Saw, I had this theater experience. But when the scene happened in Hereditary, the whole cinema was just, we all just sat there with our mouths open. And you like felt the air leave the room, and it was just, oh my gosh, what just happened? And Ari Aster, I think, did an amazing job with Hereditary. I like Midsommar. I'm not a huge fan. Like I know a lot of people. I know a lot of diehard fans, but Hereditary was a very well made film. And I mean, the cast alone is it. You watch Hereditary if you want to learn how to make a film. If you want to learn how to act, if you want to learn how to write, Hereditary is the perfect film for you to watch. So now, my friend, we always end this with the same question. We're going to bounce back to Eight-Legged Freaks, and we're going to rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on production, quality, score, acting, none of the above. We're not being critics. What we're doing now is ranking this movie strictly on how much it affected you as a child when you first watched it. So 0 skulls, not effective. 5, very effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of Eight-Legged Freaks be?
I mean, for baby Jake, it's a 5. It's like a 5 out of 5. Or if we're doing out of 10, it's a 10 out of 10. Because let me just explain this a little further. I was like this little tiny like 8-year-old child, and I'm climbing up on my father, like grabbing onto him for dear life, terrified. I couldn't even watch the end of this film. I was so horrified. And then spiders for the rest of my life. Still, I'm 23 years old. I see a spider in the bathtub or something, I get somebody else to take care of it. It still messes with me a little bit. So it definitely had some kind of effect that has actually lasted into my adult life. It scared me so much, but I love it. That's why we watch horror movies, right? Because of that fear. It makes us feel something. It's great. So even though now I think it hasn't aged all that well for me because it's at the end of the day, it's a campy, fun horror movie. It's very silly. But as a child, it did really affect me. And that's why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10, whatever we're ranking it off of.
And it's funny you say that because that's always my reasoning when people are like, oh, I wish the zombie apocalypse would happen. I wish the zombie apocalypse would happen. I'm like, dude, I run if there's a spider in my house. What do you think the fuck I'm going to do if there's 10 zombies running full speed at me? I'm not going to turn into a badass. Like I'm going to be, take my kids. They probably taste better. They're younger. Like that's going to be me, man. So I know I said this at the top, guys, but now we're at the third act. The credits are about to roll. But before they do, we got to throw that one last thing in there. All the links are down here in the description. So make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube. Make sure you're following on social media so you can stay up to date on everything that he's doing and everything he's working on. Man, this has been such a pleasure to work with you. But please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you, my friend. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.